Hello, how is everybody? So, I know I'm putting out a lot of these today. I think now's a good time to head over to the pit. So, while we're walking, I decided to talk about a little something called headcanon. What is headcanon, you may ask? Well, when it comes to a story or a franchise or anything, there's something called canon. That's CANAN. It's a term for basically what what is the history of the plot, what is confirmed, what is true. There is something called fanon, which is basically like fan fiction canon. Basically the idea of maybe extending the story, like maybe doing a story of Fallout 3 where basically I explain what happens at the end of the story. That would be fanon, or maybe creating a character who listens to the story and hears about a courier who may or may not be a complete and total douchebag. That's fanon. Headcanon, however, is basically the idea of trying to figure out what is going on in the story. It's our interpretation of things or explanations. Me, I've always had an interesting headcanon inside my head, stemming from a fan fiction I wrote based on Fallout 3. Long story short, I was a lone wanderer. However, there were many differences. One, I was not stuck to one follower. I recruited everyone, including a few others, who basically we hold up in the Super Duper Mart as our little base and blah blah blah. Hell, even recruited other guys like a crazy Z cannibal who was in fact an enclave, was in fact from a vault, who were prototype enclave experiments. A relatively normal local from the swamps of Maryland from Point Lookout. Let's see, there was a robot, not RL3. It was the robot from the Super Duper Mart, comically always calling me Jason Fox because of the I think I know where they are. From the oh from the Super Duper Mart, always calling me Jason Fox because I wore the employee name tag, and that's basically what he thought my name was, comically. And there were a few other guys, including there was also a former Enclave member who was in fact the brother of General Autumn. Hell, even paired him up with with oh, I can't remember the name. Starcross. Yeah, it was pretty nice. And finally, now what was that last guy? Oh yes, Rick, who was a Brotherhood of Steel member, or at least a former one. Not an outcast. No, he left because he helped my father with the whole, Project Purity thing, clearing out the mutants. But then his adoptive son got killed. Or rather, he had to kill his son because he was wounded to the point where bringing a medic in wouldn't save him. So he had to basically put him out of his misery, sadly. Yeah. I had some pretty complicated characters. Also, he went out like a badass against an Enclave experiment called the Chimera. Wonder what this is. Anyway, now back to the headcanon. At the end of my story, pretty much I saved the wasteland, united people. Fox became like the leader of the super mutants back in Vault 7, moving them to... I pretty much did a whole thing where I recruited allies from all my travels, like the Raiders of the Pit, to the Outcasts by helping with Operation Anchorage, to hell, even getting some of the people from Mothership Zeta to send some supplies in.
Hey, who are you?
I mean, you know how I'm a simple traveler.
Right.
Just want to look around.
Well,
Don't worry, there won't be any trouble. So I'm not even coming here. Pretty much, yeah. But at the end of the story, I pretty much did an interesting connection to both Fallout 3 and New Vegas. Not through the Lone Wanderer. That was me. For the record, married Clover. She starts to become a little more stable years later. Starting to actually think for herself. Damn good sniper too. But here's the thing. It was Butch. Butch basically decided to go out on his own, and he went to New Vegas, where he met a nice local woman who apparently was the daughter of a pretty tough tribal, well, all the way from New Arroyo. If you're intelligent with the Fallout canon, you may be well aware of Fallout 2's tribal. The idea was that basically she was the daughter of the tribal, and also who happened to be running the mob over in New Reno. Butch's son, i.e. Ian, became the courier, and pretty much, yeah, he even meets up with that crazy cannibal girl. Should point out that she's part coyote. Also, she's a badass with dual-wielding 2 Chinese swords, one of which is this, the shock sword. The other, if you may guess, is in fact Vince's Vampire's Edge. Basically, I just thought I'd give a little interesting headcanon. The idea, it makes sense that Butch would want to go strike out on his own. Now, I would guess that he would have left the Lone Wanderer after this whole thing, saying, hey, I need to strike out on my own. I want to be a hero. And New Reno seems like the right place for a guy like him. You know, with his whole tough guy attitude and everything. It would make a perfect sense for him to mix with that, you know, the locals and everything. Just always was my interpretation. Oh, and in case you're wondering what would have happened, I actually stopped the story, but one of the interesting twists is that Ian has to face a champion of the Legion. Who's the champion? Why, it's in fact me, the Lone Wanderer. Why would I side with the Legion? Simple. The way my character has evolved is that he sees the good in bad things. That's why he would have sided with the Raiders. He's not willing to he's willing to see that they would help the workers once they get the cure. And yes, that is spoiler if you don't know about the Pit DLC. It's an interesting concept that he would know that pretty much he would know that the Legion, while yes, slavers, would in fact bring order to what is otherwise an orderless wasteland. It's just my interesting ideas, and it would have made for an interesting battle. You know, seeing, who's stronger, the Lone Wanderer. For the record, I wouldn't wear the winterized power armor. No, in fact, I'd wear. My character kept evolving his armored vault suit they got from Moira to the point where it's basically bright blue combat armor. Man, this blade certainly does the job. Wish I could dual wield them. Dual wield 2 swords? Hell yeah. Alright, might as well stop by here for a bit. I think I got enough caps to get in. So, thanks for listening to, what I thought was my personal canon, plus a little bit of my fanfiction. I included some other characters, like in Mothership Zeta. Not only did we have the regular cast, but I also included two other guys. A communist Russian, all the way from World War II, who actually got along with Elliot from Operation Anchorage. Pretty much saying, what's the point in fighting? The war is already over. And Tony, a Brooklyn gangster who actually worked with, with Al Capone. Interesting thing, I actually had it where he took over once he came back down, took over the Raiders back over in Greensmill, over at the mill. Along with Paulson, who became like his partner in crime.
Hold it right there.
So, can I head up? Just want to look around. Everybody has a price. What's yours? Fair enough. Cue explosion in 3, 2, 1. Usually there's a guy running. Oh, there he is. Goodbye. See?
Oh God, mister. You gotta help us. You gotta get us out of here.
Oh, funny thing. How I was actually able to get Clover. I actually had an interesting concept to how I was able to recruit people. Jericho met over at the Super Duper Mart with his old gang, who decided at that point to take down Jericho after he was starting to get soft. Jericho basically saying, hey, I don't want the regulators on our asses anymore, so come on, we can be good guys.
Cut it out.
Well, I'll take that. But for Clover, I had an interesting idea. It was the helping out little lamplight. So basically decided to make a bet with the guy. A game of chess. Winner gets the kids, and even bet, Butch and the captured RL against Clover.
Your own business?
By the way, I like the hat.
Mr. Eulogy.
Nice
He's
zoot suit.
looking at me again.
Hey, how'd it go with that blonde thing you brought in here?
Alright, so we got the speech bobblehead. Also keep heading north. Yeah, it was a pretty good story. I mean, I admit it's not my best works, but it's definitely got a bit of a following. People enjoying the fact that I included other characters. Hell, I even included I did some new characters in my new Vegas life story, where one of the followers, now, at that point it was Boone, Cass, a former NCR who actually worked with Boone, but they left after the whole, incident with the cons. But then we also had a scavenger with an RL unit, who also happens to be from an enclave territory, looking for his father, or rather, the man who basically made his father disappear. And I even include a former Legion member, more precisely, an assassin named Zero. Why is he a former one? Well, simple. He failed to assassinate the president. He came back all right, but failure's a failure. He was, right up on the wall, right up, crucified. But he was rescued by a certain mysterious stranger. I've actually had an interesting thought about the mysterious stranger. This is also a bit of headcanon, and something that's actually really popular among fans. Now, this might be crazy, but what if the mysterious stranger was a Time Lord? Think about that for a moment. He appears when you need him to be. He's been in every incarnation of the game, Hell, further solidifying is that there's an event where you see the TARDIS. There's actually an event in Fallout 2 where you see the TARDIS. I'm not joking. Basically, the Mysterious Stranger Act is sort of the guide. Basically, drawing the individuals that will save the wasteland. That's how I like to see it. He's the guy who finds the potential souls to protect the wasteland, and basically get them together to help save it. Ugh, ants. Nothing that my shock blade can't fix. I'm gonna need to be really careful because this is dangerous territory. Yeah, guai, huh? Like, y'all gonna die. That was bad. Yeah, it's kind of nice to talk about my fan fiction. I had many plot twists, in-jokes. Hell, I even planned on a brick joke involving being a 20-cap bet that had yet to be paid up. But, why did I stop writing? Well, I just stopped. The urge to actually write kinda left me. I just didn't feel like picking up the paper and writing. It was hard to actually make the story, because it's hard. I'm more or less a visual guy. Machinima, movies, cartoons. Show me what's going on. It's always hard to describe. In my head, I have all these stories. These dialogue, all sorts of characters I was going to involve. Hell, even basically a battle between my team as the Lone Wanderer versus Ian's team as the Courier. You know, big brawl to the death. A death battle. Well, there's a fight I love to see. Alright, 5 mil. Yeah. It's kind of interesting what kind of theories people can come up with. It would be an interesting connection, as each game does have some sort of connection to each other. Getting back to the whole Butch being the father of the Courier theory. It would kind of make sense, as the Courier is claimed to come from New Reno. So, or at least in the area of New Reno, New Vegas, Arroyo. I think there's a bobblehead here. There's also raiders. Of course. What have I got? Yeah, let's go with this. Time to burn. Really, you think you can take a guy who's wearing winterized combat armor? Or not combat armor. Power armor? You really think you have the chance? Especially since I have a blade of fire. Oh yeah, in case you're wondering what kind of weapons I tended to use. Let's see. Combat shotgun, infiltrator, after that incident, and a 44 Magnum. Really good with that. An interesting thing that happened, and this is something that some people have been split upon, including myself. The fact that the Lone Wanderer, i.e. my character, actually got cybernetic prosthetics. As in, automail. like Full Metal Alchemist-esque automail. You know, good prosthetics. What happened is that one of the recurring characters, Skylar, basically, he was Project Warrior weapon, part Yao Guai. Very dangerous. His weapon was essentially a clawed gauntlet, and he basically cut open one of the eyes, the right eye, and then cut through the bone of his left arm. Or was it his right arm? I can't remember. The point is that pretty much got fucked up. Oh, how I beat him? Grabbed some nearby military-grade psycho. We were in a military bunker during the fight. As Skylar did the big mistake of exposition. Yes, I followed some terrible tropes. Where his heart rate, how he was able to avoid, like, gunfire attacks and such, that his heart rate and reflexes went up to the max. You know, beyond the point a normal human could, nearly beyond the point a normal human could take. What does Psycho do? Why, it brings your heart rate up to about the max. I don't think you need to add 2 and 2 together to figure out how he died. There were actually a trio of brothers. There was Jacob Votten, naturally Skylar Votten, and then there was Leon Votten. Funny story about Jacob Votten, and this is an interesting thing. The whole Project Warrior weapon was actually from Fallout. It was from Fallout Fanon, an Enclave experiment. Jacob Votten was essentially a god character created by another guy. And pretty much I made him as, like, an homage. Skylar was also a brother, but Leon was a new character who basically took over the Enclave after, you know, Eden. All three very powerful. However, Skylar was loyal to the Enclave, hunting down Jacob. Jacob left the Enclave and had zero emotions. Skylar was basically feral, while Leon was both a combination of the two, of calm, yet very feral. Of course, Jacob beats his ass, and it's basically like the Shadow. I kind of base his personality off of Bass from Mega Man NT Warrior. You know, the whole badass, as a godlike character who's pretty much like neutral, the main guy. It's fun to talk about it. It's good memories when I was writing. Yeah. So anyway, back to Bren, or basically the character Bren. Yeah, prosthetics. But another interesting thing happened as well. Ian the Courier has something a little different about himself. During the whole Fly Me to the Moon mission, he gets bit on the neck by a glowing one. It, like, nearly tears his throat out. Yet he survives, and how so? Well, he's now part ghoul. It's a little... Allow me to explain. A ghoul is created when too much radiation comes from the outside in. What happens when it's from the inside out? My theory was that with the immense radiation from the ghoul going to the bloodstream, he pretty much had his insides turn ghoulish while his outsides pretty much gain the radioactivity healing and, you know, immunity. It was kind of a big risk, yet people seem to agree with my theory on that one. Ah, crap.
Well, now, if it... What?
Well, what are we waiting for? So, yeah. It was basically an interesting thought to actually have a character be part ghoul. There was actually even a point where the character was committing suicide for what he was, for the freak he was. But with a little talk from ED, or rather, ED just standing there and he just figuring it out, he turned out alright. There was going to be a bit more to that, but I stopped writing around the, that point. I've done a lot of, it was a good story. Maybe someday I might go back to it. I'm sure a lot of my readers would enjoy that. Problem is that, how do I continue? It's just hard. Every time I try and write it, I've done it multiple times. I've tried writing it multiple times. I just can't seem to do it. I'm getting a bad feeling walking through here. Anybody else getting the feeling that I'm going in a very, very bad area? I feel like I'm going through the bad part of town. Well, tiny bridge. Hello. I don't know what that's for. But I'm a little curious of where that bridge leads. Wait. I think I'm starting to remember why this area is so dangerous. I'm in Deathclaw territory. Ah, nerds. Alright, might as well take a look and see where this rope bridge leads. There's something on the other side that can only be reached over this. There's nothing up here. Well, then what's the point of this area? I mean, why is there a rope bridge here if there's, nothing here? All I do know is that I probably want to get out of here. Okay, I'm in a bit of pain, but I'm fine. Yeah, so if you guys want to read my fan fiction, I suppose I could. I'll post in the description of the fan fictions. Doesn't. Well, at least I'm not. I don't think. Maybe I'm not in Deathclaw territory. Maybe Yao Guai and Super Mutant, but I don't think the Deathclaws are around this northern area. Okay. Alright, I think I found what I'm looking for. And I hear gunfire. Hey guys.
Thank you for your help with those guys. They finally... You've come about...
Alright, so what's the
Well,
problem?
I come from a place far... The place is a night. No big deal yet?
Okay.
Yeah. It's not like that. You can't get... You stay there a few years and once they have it... So, I need...
Alright.
Well, you might try it. But if you look like one of the working stiff... Lucky for us, a group of slavers. They're off... Whatever.
Alright. Why would I want to acquire a slave outfit? I'm not that desperate. Man. Yeah. Eh? Ah, crap. It doesn't look like I have a lot of time left on here. I'm going to have to go very soon. So I'm going to just finish this. We'll set up before we go to the pit. Then we'll later go. Alright. I'm sorry I had to do this. Besides, we had a nice chat, haven't we? Right? Alright, what do we got? Just a bloat fly. Nothing I can't handle. I look pretty badass with this, especially the sword. Sword is what's... I think the sword is what sets this ensemble all together.
You don't... Fuck off.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
You don't belong here. Piss off.
Really? Oh. You don't have to be so rude to me.
Shoot, shoot.
Maybe I want to be friendly. You ever think of that? Anyone else?
Please help us. Oh my God.
We're free now.
Wait. You're either the kindest... That guy over there on the... If you don't... We will.
Alright. Alright, come on, Werner.
All right. You gotta decide. I'll meet you up. I followed you. I've gotten very...
Alright. So, yeah. Gone through everything. Now we have to head over into the pit. At least we will next time. Sorry, but I do need to go very soon. I'll start uploading this video, and yeah. Peace. I said peace.